They had it all: fame, beauty, talent, and legions of fans. But what they didn't have was time, or permission, or peace. And yet, against all odds, they dared to dream the impossible, to love openly, and to marry in defiance of a world that wasn't ready for them. __. This is the story of Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan, two supernovas who burned too brightly to hide, and of the secret wedding that stunned even the heavens. It began, as all great love stories do, with a risk. On a rainy evening in June, a red envelope arrived at the doorstep of a secluded tea house nestled in the misty hills of Hangzhou. Inside, written in gold ink, asterisk, to the one who holds my past and future, meet me under the Jade Pavilion at midnight. Asterisk. It was unsigned. It didn't need to be. Xiao Zhan, heart pounding, recognized the handwriting instantly. He pressed the envelope to his lips, smiling faintly. The last time he'd seen Wang Yibo, they had just wrapped a commercial shoot in Tokyo. A cold farewell. A quick embrace. Cameras. Always the cameras. And now this. Midnight. A pavilion cloaked in mist? Jean knew. Something big was coming. The Jade Pavilion stood like a dream, shimmering under the full moon's gaze. Bamboo trees swayed like silent dancers as mist licked the ground. Xiao Zhan arrived first, wearing a long white robe that caught the moonlight like water. The air was thick with anticipation, and something else. Something ancient. Sacred. Then he heard it. A hum. A low, familiar roar. Wang Yibo's motorcycle cut through the stillness like thunder. He dismounted slowly, dressed in all black, his helmet under one arm, his eyes locked on Zhan. No words at first. Then Yibo whispered, asterisk, do you still want to marry me? Asterisk. The world seemed to stop. Zhan stepped forward, voice trembling, but sure. Asterisk, yes, even if it's the last thing I do. Asterisk. They knew what it meant. In a world where their love was both legend and taboo, marrying would ignite a storm. But they were no longer afraid of storms. They had become the storm. That night, under the Jade Pavilion, they made a pact, not just of love, but of courage. They would wed in secret. No press. No entourage. No grand stages. Only them. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The plan was bold. Almost reckless. They would marry in Tibet, beneath the ancient stars of Mount Kailash, where the sky meets eternity. There, at an old monastery, a monk who once worked as a set designer on The Untamed agreed to officiate. They traveled in disguise, Yibo as a wandering biker with a scar painted on his cheek, Zhan as a mute painter trailing sacred ruins. The journey was arduous. In Lhasa, they were nearly recognized. A fan snapped a blurry photo of Yibo adjusting Zhan's scarf. Within hours, the internet exploded. Are they together? Is this real? Conspiracy or couple? Agencies panicked. Brands threatened lawsuits. But it was too late. The lovers had vanished into the mountains. On the eve of the ceremony, disaster struck. A snowstorm unlike any in decades tore through the region. Tents ripped. Paths vanished. The monk went missing. They took shelter in a cave, with only a single candle between them. I'm sorry, Yibo said, hands shaking. I just wanted us to have something real. Zhan reached out, placing the candle between their palms. This is real, he said. Even if we never say the vows. Even if the world never knows. You and me, here, is all I've ever needed. And then, he pulled out 2 rings. Simple, silver, unmarked. I had them made the night we wrapped The Untamed. Zhan confessed. I've carried them every day since. They exchanged rings in the cave, no words, no witnesses, just breath and ice and fire between their lips. Outside, the storm roared. Morning broke with a silence that sang. The snow had cleared. The sky blushed gold. And in the distance, the missing monk approached, barefoot in the snow, his eyes alight. "They say the mountains tested your love," he said. "You passed." That day, at the edge of the world, they were wed beneath a sky so vast it seemed to bow for them. The monk spoke in old tongues. Birds circled above. And when he declared them united, not as man and man, but as two souls beyond form, the wind itself seemed to cheer. Zhan wept. Yibo smiled the way stars do, quietly, fiercely, forever. They returned to the city like shadows. No one knew. Not really. Rumors burned across social media. Was that a matching ring? A shared glance too long? A love song posted at midnight? They neither confirmed nor denied. Instead, they lived. Yibo raced motorcycles through moonlit roads. Zhan painted temples with unnamed faces in the background. At night, they curled together in silence, letting the world spin around them. Then, one day, everything changed. A video surfaced. Grainy, black and white, but unmistakable. The kiss in the cave. The rings. The vows. It broke the internet. Fandoms fractured. Brands pulled contracts. Articles were scrubbed. Old interviews dissected. The government's censorship claws began to twitch. Their managers begged them to lie. Say it was acting. A trailer for a film. Deep fake. But Yibo looked into the camera, jaw set like stone. We were always real. Faced with exile or silence, they chose neither. Instead, they turned to the stage. Together, they announced a joint performance, The Wedding of the Century, a dance theater fusion of ancient myth and modern love. It sold out in 6 minutes. In a sweeping swirl of light, fire, and shadow, they told their story, not with words, but with movement. The final scene, a recreation of their cave ceremony. Tears fell. Before vows were exchanged, before the snowstorms sealed their love in ice and fire, there was the red envelope. Not red like love. Red like danger. Red like revolution. Xiao Zhan had just returned to his Shanghai apartment from a late-night table reading. Exhausted, shoulders stiff, the echo of lines still playing in his head. He reached into his mailbox, expecting scripts, bills, maybe a fan letter. What he found instead made his breath still. A crimson envelope, thick and velvety, sealed with gold wax. No return address. No name. Just one thing pressed into the wax. A tiny carved wolf. His hand trembled. He hadn't seen that emblem since the final night of filming The Untamed, when Yibo had wordlessly slipped it into his jacket pocket and said, "Asterisk, if you ever get tired of hiding, meet me again where the moon touches water." Asterisk. Zhan stared at the envelope, heart pounding. He opened it carefully. Inside, a note, handwritten in a familiar, slanted scrawl. To the one who holds my past and future. Meet me under the Jade Pavilion at midnight. Come alone. Why? His knees went weak. It had been over a year since they last spoke. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Xiao Zhan found himself spiraling through memories like old film reels. Yibo's laugh, rare and wild, echoing across a snowy balcony in Japan. The way he danced behind the scenes, eyes closed, rhythm consuming him, when no one was watching. The final take of their most famous scene, Zhan's hand clutching Yibo's robe, not ready to let go. But they had let go. Fame demanded it. Contracts forbade it. China, at the time, would never allow such a union to live in daylight. Still, the envelope. The wolf. The note. Why now? What did Yibo want? And more importantly, what did Zhan want? He dressed with trembling fingers. Not in the usual designer armor of a public star, but in something old, a simple linen shirt, black slacks, and a coat that still faintly smelled of pine and motorcycle leather. Yibo's coat from a rainy shoot in Gansu province. The Jade Pavilion was an ancient garden outside Hangzhou, now closed to the public at night. But they had their ways. As the clock struck 11:45 p.m., Xiao Zhan stepped into the night, hood low, heart thundering like distant drums. The city glowed behind him. But ahead, only mist and moonlight. He arrived just before midnight. The garden was empty, silent, sacred. The Jade Pavilion stood like a ghost in silver, surrounded by lotus ponds and willow trees that whispered secrets. A wind brushed through the air, then suddenly a sound, a low growl, then tires. Jean turned. A motorcycle tore through the mist like a phantom, its black frame gleaming. It came to a halt at the edge of the pavilion. The rider dismounted slowly, removing his helmet. And there he was, Wang Yibo, hair damp from the ride, eyes darker than midnight, jaw clenched, not in anger, but restraint. His presence sucked the air from the space around them. They stared at each other. Neither spoke. The silence between them pulsed louder than fireworks. Finally, Yibo stepped forward, hands still holding the helmet like a shield. "I almost didn't send it," he said. Jean swallowed. "But you did. I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wasn't sure either," Jean said honestly. "But here I am." Yibo's eyes softened, just barely. "I've missed you." Jean looked away. "You left without saying goodbye. And you deleted my number." "Because I couldn't." He stopped, breath catching. "Because I didn't know how to want you and survive this world at the same time." That was the truth. Brutal and bleeding. Yibo stepped closer, close enough that Jean could feel the heat of his skin despite the night's chill. "I've been surviving too," Yibo whispered. "But I'm tired of surviving. I want to live." He reached into his jacket and pulled out another red envelope. Jean hesitated before taking it. Inside was a single Polaroid. The two of them, caught in a stolen moment, years ago, maybe, laughing beside a food cart in Yunnan, faces lit by lanterns. It was a photo Jean didn't even know existed. On the back, Yibo had written, "Do you remember this night? I do. Every day. Let's stop pretending. Let's try again. For real. For always. Midnight. You. Me. A wedding. Say yes." Jean looked up, tears pooling. "You're serious," he said. Yibo nodded once. "If we do this, it changes everything," Jean warned. "There's no going back." Yibo stepped into the pavilion, held out his hand like a vow. "I don't want to go back," he said. "I want to go forward, with you." For a heartbeat, the world paused. No fans. No brands. No fear. Just two souls on the edge of something ancient and infinite. Jean took Yibo's hand. Softly, like the first petals of spring, he whispered, "Yes." And in that moment, the stars above the Jade Pavilion shimmered, just slightly brighter.